Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome to Queen City Toastmasters hybrid meeting. And I am David Jones, a Sergeant of Arms, Acting Sergeant of Arms, and incoming Sergeant of Arms. And we have a good meeting for tonight with some great speakers. So I'm going to go ahead and get the meeting started. I'm going to turn it over to our president, Vanessa Waller. Take it away, Vanessa.
Thank you, David. And thank you everyone on Zoom and in person for showing up to our Tuesday night meeting as usual. The summer solstice definitely feels like summer. It looks like we have mostly familiar faces here on Zoom, but I see some people in the crowd in person. So if we have any guests, I usually start the meeting by welcoming our guests. And for those who haven't met me yet, my name is Vanessa Waller. I'm the outgoing president of Queen City Toastmasters. And we usually just start with saying hello to our guests. And if you all want to share, how you found out about us and what your interest is in Toastmasters, we will be happy to welcome you. So I see lots of hopefully new faces. It's hard for me to tell from here, but we have someone in person. Oh, perfect.
Your face,
Thanks,
Jamie. All right, and I will be introducing our guest today. So first, I'd like to welcome Paula, and if you can just share a little bit about what brought you here today.
Well, this is exactly what I don't like to do, and you're just putting me on the spot. But that's why I'm here. And I've heard about Toastmasters for a long time, and I've just never pushed myself to do it. And I get extreme anxiety when I have to present or get up in front of people.
You were in the right place. That's exactly how I felt when I started about a year ago, and it's been awesome to be here in person. So welcome. All right, and now we have Reggie. Is that right? All right. Can you please introduce yourself and what brought you here?
Thank you. My name is, my name is Reggie Harris. I've known about Queen City Toastmasters for a little while. So last week I attended virtually. I wasn't in town, but I did attend virtually. And so I got a taste of what it was like. And, Colin gave me the invite and said, hey, we really would like for you to be here in person. So I actually got in today and I wanted to make sure that I came in person and, I got the experience of being in front of everybody. And like Paula said, I have anxiety sort of when I speak sometimes. And, I want to come out of that. So I look forward to going through the process.
Welcome. Thank you, Reggie.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
All right, and then I have Latrice as well.
Good evening. My name is Latrice Davis. I am very new to Charlotte. Been here for about 10 months. I hail from Maryland by way of Texas. I am here because I am not afraid of speaking. I have anxiety being in front of a camera, not so much being in front of people, and I don't know what that is about. But I am in the process of starting a business, a coaching business and a speaking business. So I'm just kind of making connections and finding my way around Charlotte, and Toastmasters was one of the things that I was told you should check out. So honestly, you guys are the first that actually responded. I've sent out messages to quite a few. So thanks for responding.
Awesome. Welcome, Latrice. And one of the great things that I think we do here and that David helps with is we actually record all of our meetings. So anyone who's speaking is on camera. David's actually standing in front of a camera right now. So it's a great way to reflect on your own speeches and learn from those. I think it's fantastic. All right, and we've got a couple more folks, but they're not really guests. They've been around a number of times. So Dwayne, welcome back again. So maybe just real quick, what is it going to take you to get across the line for becoming a member full time?
Thanks for putting me on the spot. More visits, I guess. Just be able to come and see people speak more often and then getting comfortable with it. That's it.
Awesome. Yeah, and then we have Taiki. All right, and you've been here a number of times as well. So, all right, welcome back. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward for the speeches, and yeah.
Okay. All right, Vanessa, that's our guest in person then.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jamie, and thank you to all of our guests again for taking that step. If it's your first time here, we're glad you chose to join us. And if you're a returning guest, again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all about joining, and we'll be happy to help you. And now we have the remainder of our meeting, which is going to be kind of an exciting theme. So I will let our Toastmaster of the day, who is David Jones, our incoming Sergeant at Arms and immediate past president, guide us through the rest of the meeting. Over to you, David.
Thank you, Vanessa, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Now, for those of you in person, first I have to apologize and acknowledge that in this general area here, especially for those that come up, there's a very strong cologne odor, and there's a backstory to that. If you have watched the Johnny Depp and his wife, I forget her last name or her name, but if you've been watching that, myself and the jury came to conclusion that he was not innocent of what she accused him of doing. But unfortunately, he lost some sponsors. He lost Disney, so there's no more Pirates of the Caribbean. But one of the companies that stood by him was Dior. He does men's Dior cologne, and that's his little commercial. So I decided to support Captain Sparrow, and I bought some Dior cologne. And it came in today, and I was really excited. And as soon as I got the package, it was a little warm, but I didn't think much about it. So I squirted a little on it. And I guess because of the heat and the pressure, it started going everywhere. And I start rubbing it all over myself because it's $100 a bottle. I didn't want to waste it. And therefore, if you smell some very strong Dior cologne, yes, that is me, and I apologize. So, and that's the backstory. So you could think, gosh, I can't remember her name. I know that her attorneys kept calling her Turd. I don't, because her last name's Curd or something. Amber Heard, yeah, and they would call her Turd, which I thought was really funny. All right, so tonight's theme is value added. And recently we had a guest speaker come in, and it's nice to have guest speakers come in just to see what other people are doing, because as you come every week, you see all of us speaking over and over again. But I thought it'd be nice to have her come. And in a few weeks, I have another guest speaker that I've arranged to come in, and she does podcasts, and she's going to teach us how to do podcasts, because some of us want to do it, but we don't know how to do it. I want to do one. But also with your pathways, one of your last projects is you have to do a podcast. And it's like a 20-minute speech. So you'll do a 5-minute presentation, then you'll play your podcast, and then you'll do follow-up with questions and answers. A lot of people skip that one because we don't know how to do it, and it's kind of scary. And that's why I'm going to have Jennifer come in and give us a speech about how to do a podcast. So my question to you is, what type of things would you like to hear from guest speakers that would add value to you as a speaker or just as a professional? And as we go through the night, if you have any thoughts, throw them out there, and I'll find the people to come in here and add value to our club and to our membership. Now let's go ahead and get started with the meeting. And we're going to start with our roll keepers. And for all the guests, because we do have a lot of guests tonight, everybody who spoke after Vanessa, which would be me, is a role that you sign up for. That's how Toastmasters work. So Toastmaster of the night will be somebody else next week, and grammarian and timer and everybody else next week will be totally different people. And that's how you kind of learn how to stand up in front of people, speak, and then eventually you can get into giving speeches when you're comfortable to do them. But this is how the process works. So as you see everybody speaking tonight, then you can think, I could do that next week or the week after that. But I'm going to go ahead and start with one of our members on Zoom, Carla. She's with South Park, and she is going to tell us her role as grammarian.
Thank you very much, David, Toastmaster for the day. My role as grammarian for this club is basically 3 things. 1, I provide the word of the day, and I will pop that up there right now for you. Let me just hit enter. There you go. It's up there to everyone, I hope. The word of the day is launch, which means to start or set into motion an activity or enterprise. Just like today, this club is launching a new strategy for bringing in guest speakers and learning new things. So any form of the verb, and the noun just means the launch of the rocket ship happened. So it's the act of launching. Synonyms for launch are begin, constitute, establish, inaugurate, etc. And I gave some examples. Today, the Toastmasters team launched a new club. She's trying to launch a new career as a singer. There's some examples. So for those of you who are in the club, you probably can't see it on site, but for those of you who are not, I've put that information in the chat. That's my first role. My second role is to be the the ums, the so's, you knows, the counter of all those filler words. My third role is to listen for interesting word usage or speech and then report on that at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much. Back to you, Toastmaster David.
Thank you, Madam Grammarian. And as she mentioned, the word of the day is launch. So if you're called up to do a table topics or if you speak, you should try to use the word launch in your speech. It's just a random word that changes every single week. So again, it's like you want to launch a new business or you want to launch a spaceship. So try to use the word launch in your speech. Also, if you're interested in joining either Queen City or South Park is our sister club. And if you're a member of one or the other, you get to go to their meetings and do roles and speeches. It's included in the fee that you pay to join the club. They meet on Mondays from 12 to 1 on Zoom only. So you have 2 opportunities to speak each week by being a member of the club. And we're going to move on to our next person. And the next person is very interesting because when I talk about guest speakers, I want to find people that are very interesting and add value. And we do have members here that when they give speeches, I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting person. And our timer tonight from South Park, Sonia Pons, is one of those people too. And hopefully one day she will come and give a speech because she has an incredible life journey. And so hopefully one day we'll hear from her. But tonight she's going to be our timer. So Sonia, if you want to give us your role as timer tonight.
Fantastic. Can you guys hear me? I am Sonia
Yes.
Pons with South Park Toastmasters. Thank you so much for welcoming to the Queen City family. Today I get to be your timer, and why timing is important in Toastmasters is because we are intentional. So for our speakers today, I'm going to be using the Zoom indicators, but if you need me to give you an audible, please let me know. So for our speeches today, there are 5 to 7 minutes. You will see the green when you hit 5 minutes. You will see the yellow when you hit 6 minutes, and then you will see the red when you hit 7. For our table topics, you have 2 minutes in order to seal the deal with your table topics. For the first minute, you will get the green. For a minute and a half, you'll get the yellow. And then at 2 minutes, you will get the red. And then for our red, I'm going to show that. And then for our evaluators today, you will see you will see green at 2 minutes because you get 2 to 3 minutes. You will see at 2.5 minutes, you will get the yellow. And then at red at 3. Our goal is always for us to go for the green. So go for the green, and I look forward to hanging out with you guys tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Timer. And I will also be mimicking your colors here in person for the in-person people. So then I have to turn around and look at the screen. And we don't have a ballot counter tonight. Usually we have a ballot counter to pick our favorite speakers. It's just another role to get you to get engaged, come up and stand on the stage and talk. So everybody tonight is going to be a winner. It's going to be our favorite person. And we're going to go ahead and start with our speeches. And unfortunately, I don't have any information on either of our speakers because they didn't fill it out in the thing. But I know, assuming Junior, you're 5 to 7 minutes. Perfect. So Madam Timer, 5 to 7 minutes. I'm just going to let Junior Gomez introduce himself and take it away, Junior.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guest. My name is Junior Gomez, and today I'll be giving a speech on failure. Failure. Everyone in this room has experienced failure somehow, some way. Whether that was learning how to ride your first bike, to your 3rd grade math quiz, to launching a successful business. Everyone always told me, you must fail in order to succeed. You must fail in order to succeed. I never understood what that meant. I'm a winner. I win. I never failed, in my mind. And there were things that people said throughout my whole entire life that went in one ear and out the other. Those were one. Another one that really stood out to me was do better, be better. When I went to college, I played Division III soccer, and my coach recruited me not because I was the most skilled person, but because I worked hard. He knew how bad I wanted to win, so he pushed me. And in practice, he would push me to the limits. every time he told me to run around the field or do any type of drills, I would always come under. Come on, Junior, you gotta do better. You gotta be better. Every single practice. You gotta do better. You gotta be better. And of course, in my mind, all I thought, I'm a failure. What do you mean? I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to do better. I don't understand, what more do you want from me? I just can't make it. Until one day, be better and do better stood out to me. I was in my dorm room and I was contemplating whether or not I wanted to play soccer anymore. But it was either not play soccer and remain a failure, or try to listen to the words that my coach said, which was be better and do better. So at that moment, I got a shift in perspective. I said, in order for me to be better and do better, I must have failed. You have to fail in order to succeed. It all started making sense. Instead of looking at failure as a bad thing, when I was 18 years old, I welcomed it with open arms. And I started looking at it in the face. And in reality, I was looking at me. It was me who I was looking in the face. And I started to say, I will no longer let you defeat me, because this is my moment to be better, to do better. So my message to everyone here is that if you feel as if you're failing, that you're down in the slums and you're trying to get up and you're running and you're doing everything that you possibly can to be the best that you can possibly be, but things are not panning out for you, understand that this is your opportunity to do better. This is your opportunity to be better. Thank you very much.
Sir, appreciate it. And next up, we're going to have our second speaker. It's going to be Stuart. And if you just give us a minute, because I have to set up our little PowerPoint. But Stuart, you want to come on up and then we'll. And again, Stuart, Madam Timer is 5 to 7 minutes, I believe. All right. Thank you, David.
Yeah. It's on. Oh. We're yeah, I'm not sure how to get it back to the Can those on Zoom see me or only the PowerPoint?
We can see both your PowerPoint and the view of you as the speaker, Stuart.
Okay,
so I
great.
think we're okay.
Thank you, Vanessa. Maybe I should have practiced beforehand.
No worries.
Okay,
Looks good.
I think I think we've got it now. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honourable guests. This evening, I would like to talk to you about a book that's profoundly impacted the way that I make decisions. First of all, I would like to share with you a very brief story. October 2018, I was in a cafe having breakfast with my wife in St. John's in Antigua. Towards the end of our meal, my wife got up to go to the bathroom, and from across the room, I heard a very distinctive Scottish accent coming from an older gentleman. Given that there's such a small population of Scottish people, it's very rare for me to meet somebody else. So I very excitedly had to go over and make conversation and introduce myself. We talked for a couple of minutes and swapped stories about what brought us there. And he shared with me some wisdom and some of his insights about working in the United States. It turns out he had been a CFO at a Fortune 500 company for most of his career. He was now in his 70s. And it's important to know that he was a very distinguished looking older man, maybe in his early 70s. If you can imagine something between Sean Connery and the Dos Equis, world's most interesting man, he was somewhere right in the middle there. He looked weather-beaten, red skin and white hair, but I could tell from his accent that he was very well spoken, likely highly educated, and probably from a very well-to-do background. But the interesting part comes next. So I asked him, is it? Sorry, we're having an issue again here. It's okay, I'll continue without the slides. So he explained to me that that morning he was going to catch a flight to Marie-Galante, which is a little island just south of Guadalupe, very close to Antigua. And the reason that he was going, because it was his life's goal, and he used the term life's goal, to visit every island in the Caribbean. Having a great and deep appreciation for the Caribbean and its various cultures, I was just in awe of this. I thought it was the most incredible and unique thing to be able to do. And we talked about it for a couple of minutes. And eventually my wife comes back to the bathroom and finds me chatting with this stranger. And so we have to move on and we say our goodbyes. But I thought about him and his journey for a long time. I really just thought it seemed like such a cool idea, and to think that he'd come up with a very unique and purposeful journey that meant a lot to him. I gave it a great amount of thought. So fast forward a couple of years and I'm having dinner with a mentor. He recommends this book to me. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and told me to read it 3 times. And I quickly understood why he said that. And it's taught me some very powerful lessons and asked me some important questions about myself and who I want to be. So if you can go to slide 4 there, David. Yeah. So these are the 7 habits, and I'm actually just going to touch on one because they go into so much detail and I don't want to bore you. If we go on to the next slide, we'll discuss habit 2, which is called begin with the end in mind. To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. And as an exercise to help you create a visual of what your end might be, the author tells you to imagine that you are driving a car, you're driving down the road, you're driving towards a church. You go inside and you recognize many of your family and friends and even co-workers. And you quickly begin to realize that you're at a funeral, and it's your funeral 3 years from now. All of the guests there share stories about you and give speeches about you. And you have to ask yourself, what do you want them to say about you? Begin with the end in mind is based on the principle that all things are created twice. First, there is a mental creation, and secondly, there is a physical creation. The physical creation follows the mental. And if you don't make a conscious effort to build this initial mental creation of what you want in life, then you will empower other people, your circumstances and external influences to dictate what your life will become and who you will become. And when I read this, I thought about the old man in Antigua, how he had created this very specific image, planned his journeys deliberately, and worked towards it. And it was something unique and special to him and fulfilling. It was his end. Next slide. So this is a very difficult question for me to answer. I don't know what my end is. As much as I admire the strategy, I don't know if humans are naturally supposed to think this way. I have to admit that part of me is uncomfortable pinning all of my activities and behaviors and my existence to one image or paradigm. I feel like I would be a horse running with blinders on, that I'm closed off to other opportunities. I'm limiting my exposure to other beautiful and wonderful things in life. So what is your end? Is it a specific goal? Do you want to travel somewhere? Do you want to solve a problem or create solutions in your community or your society? Is your current day-to-day life aligned with achievement of that goal or that end? What kind of person do you need to become to be able to meet that end? And what do you need to do to become that person today? I once asked this question of the same mentor who recommended the book. And strangely, I just didn't believe his answer. It seemed too plain, too vanilla for such a sophisticated person. It just seemed too simple. And I think this is a very difficult question to answer, genuinely, for most people. So I've still to figure out what my end is. In the meantime, I just plan to work hard, look after myself and the people around me. Next slide. But overall, I felt like the book can be very textbook at times. As I say, I've only gone over one of the habits, and it's often a very difficult read to face at the end of a long day. It's tough to ask yourself these questions. Overall, I felt a great sense of relief. Relief that maybe I'm now less ignorant of counterproductive habits that I once had, or relief that I now had a clearer view of issues that I once struggled with. If anyone here has read the book and would like to share any thoughts with me at the end, I would certainly welcome the conversation. Thank you.
And for the guests, that is the best part of Toastmasters. We can come here and make mistakes, and it doesn't matter. We learn technical difficulties. Now we know what to do when we're at work, and we just learn to roll with it. So it's actually a good thing to come here and have technical difficulties. Can I get a timer's report, please?
Fantastic. For our speaker junior, 3 minutes and 41 seconds. And for Stuart, 7 minutes and 32 seconds.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Timer. And with that, we're going to move on to the next portion of our meeting, and that is our table topics master. And I will let Andrea Chocolate Butterfly Williams explain it to you.
To the fun part. Last time I was in the mean part, so this time I get to be the fun part. I like this. So I am your table topics master today, and our theme is value add. And what are we looking for, right? So do I have any volunteers who would like to answer a 1 to 2 minute question? You have to speak for at least 1 minute, not more than 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. You get a 30-second grace. And we are looking for volunteers, or you can be voluntold. Even on Zoom, I can voluntold someone. Elvis raised his hand. He knew I was going to call him. That's why he rose his hand. So our first question is straight from our speeches today. And Junior explained to us that failure is your first step into success. And so I like to say your success starts at page number 1. So Elvis, can you tell me of a time where failure taught you how to succeed?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Every single day, I am told that failure is a step to succeed. Every single decision that we make brings us to where we are. And it is our mental preparation, our mental attitude that help us get into that next step that we want to be. We specifically are conditioned by things and thoughts that we heard, things that we saw, things that we experienced since we were children, and that conditions some of the things that we are today. In order for us to change our attitude towards success, we need to start changing the way we think. Every single day, I experience situations that somehow make me believe that I'm a failure. Why do I have what I have today? Why don't I have more? Or why do I experience things that some other people don't? Am I too skinny? Should I have hair? Am I too old? Am I too young to start things? And all of those things that make me sometimes believe that I'm a failure help me also think in the other way, that it is my mental attitude that will help me get to the other side of success. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you. That was a great response because it brings us to our next question that I am going to pull up. When you were talking and you were saying we go through our minds on what we think is a failure versus what is an actual failure, or did we actually fail, or do we? A lot of people say, I didn't fail, I learned from that situation. And sometimes we just need to change our mindset that we need to learn and grow. So our next wonderful question comes straight from our speeches today. And the speeches today, he was talking about launching 7 habits of highly effective people. And I've read that book, I guess, about twice now. And he zoned in on number 2, which began with the end in mind. So we often talk about, I have a dream to do this, or I have a dream to do that. And Elvis mentioned, am I too old? Am I too this to get started? So then we don't do it because we make excuses, because we start at the beginning and we go through everything that could go wrong until the end. So does anybody have the bravity to come up or to volunteer with your hand? Dwayne, my friend, he's going to join. Trust me, I got him. So your question is, what is your dream and what is the first step that you can take to get there today?
Thank you very much. Good evening, guests and Toastmasters. My current dream is to launch a law firm. Right now, I'm a magistrate and I can't practice. And what I've been doing so far is envisioning the end, which is my day, my trips, my clients, my experiences. And that has allowed me to put on paper a great starting point. But even going further, what kind of office do you want? What does your week look like? And being able to visualize these things and to feel it, it's so awesome because a part of it is like, wow, it's actually happening even though you're still right here. And that has allowed me to create a business plan. And all the while, you mentioned failure, I'm thinking, man, can I do this? Can I really live up to this expectation? And as I begin to share my plan with other people, they're like, wow, I didn't do this. I didn't think about this. And you'd be surprised at the things you can do when you begin to create the thoughts in your mind and put them on paper, but also begin to put them into action. And so my dream right now as it stands is to launch my law firm actually at the end of this year when I'm done with being a magistrate.
Awesome answer. It's interesting that a lot of people have these thoughts in their head. And do I have time for one more question? Okay, so we have one more question. So I have one great question. If somebody's willing to raise their hand. I guess. Come on. I'm harmless, I promise. So speaking of books, everybody knows that I write books. I love books. And I believe that books, it was ironic that on his slide today, come on up, on his slide today, he said books will, I think it said books will open your mind. I don't know. That's what I saw. Okay. So what was the last book that gave you great value?
Wow. The last book was The Alchemy. I've read that book 3 times, and I absolutely love it. The Alchemy talks about your personal legend and finding your personal legend and creating a life and a legacy, finding that legend. And I love the book because that's what I'm setting out to do. I enjoy talking and teaching and coaching, but most of all for me, I want to live a life like I have a dream of a life. I wrote down begin with the end in mind because I love that saying. I've read the book as well. And I also visualize the life I want. And so I enjoy The Alchemy because it changed my perspective. The things that we go through are not always failures. They are stepping stones to success. And that's what I believe. And in launching, I think I covered everybody's stuff. Good on me. In launching businesses and launching anything that we dream about, I think that finding that personal thing, the why underneath the why, is what's going to get us to that point so that we are successful in whatever we want to do. And so The Alchemy is the book that I enjoy most. And that's the last book I read that changed a lot of things in my life. Thank you.
So, one more. So he's challenging me now. So now that I have to come up with one more question, I have a cheat. So I have one more question, and give me 1 second. Who's volunteering for this question as I spin the wheel?
I'll volunteer.
Okay, who's that?
It's Carla.
I knew that voice. Okay, so your question, let me see. Oh, this is good. So in thinking of success, learning, your dream, the end in mind, who do you admire the most that you believe, dead or alive, that could get you to your dream?
Thank you very much for that question. There is more than one person I admire that could get me to my dream. Some of them are dead, some of them are alive. The ones I think of at the top of my list would be my father and my mother. One is dead, one's alive, because they are people who have given me great counsel over my life and helped me to understand where my strengths and weaknesses are. I think that from a public point of view, I've always thought Ruth Bader Ginsburg is someone that could guide me. I thought she was a really wise person and very thoughtful. And she's someone I would like to meet and talk to. I've been asked this question before, and I think she'd be good. I also think that I have 5 siblings, and they would be people that I would turn to. And beyond them, my dearest friends who I've maintained, some of them for 50 years, 60 years, those are people I would turn to. I also am going to go back to reading. I think books are a good source. I read the Covey book and took a course in it at work at least 10 or 15 years ago. The 1 Minute Manager, looking at what you want to do with your life and getting down to that. I think that's another good idea for getting information. So for me, there's so many, there's not just one person. There are so many people who have influenced and continue to influence my life. And those are the people that I would want to surround myself with to move forward in what I consider to be the last third of my life. I'm trying to figure out myself, what's the next chapter of my life as I retired from one career and going on to another. Thank you very much for the question and for allowing me to think about it.
Thank you, Toastmaster Carla. So I'm going to leave everybody with this last statement. It was something I said earlier. Sometimes I even say things that make me go, ooh. And so I said this to my coworker: if you believe that you're not good enough and somebody tells you that you're not good enough, they're going to confirm your belief. But if you believe that you are good enough and someone tells you that you're not good enough, you won't ever believe it. So believe in yourself before you believe in what someone else says. Back to you, Toastmaster David.
Thank you. So what you're saying is you amaze yourself sometimes. There you go. Can we get a timer's report, please?
Absolutely. For Elvis, 2 minutes and 44 seconds. For Dwayne, 1 minute and 27 seconds. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the name of our third speaker. 1 minute and 24 seconds. And for Carla, 1 minute and 48 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Timer. Appreciate it. And now we're going to move into the next section for our guests, the evaluations. Whenever you get a speech, one of the benefits of Toastmasters is you have a peer who gives you feedback on the good quality of your speech and areas that you need improvement on. And then we also have a general evaluator who's going to tell us about how we did in the whole meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our general evaluator for the night, Eric Laxer.
Thank you, Toastmaster David. I like your segue by stating we're now going to move into the evaluation portion of the meeting, but I'd like to turn the enthusiasm up for this section a little bit by saying we're not only going to move into this section, we're going to launch into this section. So ladies and gentlemen, members, guests, welcome to the evaluation portion of today's meeting. My role as general evaluator is to coordinate this portion of the meeting with several other members who will be assisting and participating. I will then call upon our grammarian for a grammarian report, and I will also provide my own general evaluation of our meeting and our evaluators. So without any further ado, the boosters are firing, and I would like to call upon our first evaluator, Toastmaster Allen, who will be providing an evaluation for the Icebreaker speech by Toastmaster Jr.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. The Icebreaker, for those of you who are first time or returning guests, is the very first of hopefully many speeches that you will give. It's an opportunity to introduce yourself to the club, tell us whatever you want us to know, and it's the chance to officially launch your Toastmasters journey. Junior set a very strong precedent for many others to follow in his Icebreaker speech. And I will discuss all the many things he did well, as offer a few suggestions for improvement. He kept a very open stance. A lot of times, especially newer Toastmasters, they tend to just hide behind the lectern, or in this case, if you have a microphone, they just kind of cling to it nervously. And I did not see any of that going on. He constantly had his hands making gestures as necessary. And then the eye contact was very evenly distributed between everybody in the room and then those people who are on Zoom. He did a great job projecting his voice. I never struggled to hear anything he said. And he also did a great job using different inflections, especially when he was sharing the dialogue between him and his coach. As far as the structure of the speech, he told us in the beginning what he was going to tell us, and then in the end left us with a call to action about embracing failure and learning from it and becoming better in the future, which is a really valid lesson to take away in your Toastmaster journey as well. And I don't want to steal the grammarian's thunder, but as far as I was concerned, I don't think I heard even one fill the word or double clutch. And then of course he used the word of the day too. And then most importantly, he led with this. Don't overthink your icebreaker, just talk from the heart. We have no idea what you were or were not going to say. With that being said, Junior, you did come a little short on time. The icebreaker is supposed to be 4 to 6 minutes, so you still had more than enough time to expand on your story. And then if there wasn't anything more to say, then just to fill in that time, slow down just a little bit. Because even though you did use effective pauses throughout the speech, while you were talking, it was a little bit fast paced. So just a chance to slow down a little bit. And lastly, you said thank you at the end of the speech. There is no need to say thank you. We should all be thanking you for sharing your speech with us. So that is exactly what I will do right now. Thank you, Junior, for sharing your story with us. We enjoyed it and look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Allen. Our next evaluator will be Toastmaster Jamie, who will be providing feedback for the speech given by Toastmaster Stewart. Please join me in welcoming Toastmaster Jamie.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I have the privilege to provide the evaluation for Toastmaster Stewart's speech. Stuart and I actually started around the same time, so it's been a real joy to watch you develop as a speaker as I've gone on along on my own journey as well. I'm going to share my feedback on 3 dimensions: content, structure, and delivery. We'll start with content. Again, one of the things that I love about Stuart as a speaker is he always brings a very unique voice, and it's contemplative. I think it's one of your greatest strengths actually as a speaker. This is clearly a book that resonated with you, and it's one that left a profound impression. What I loved about it wasn't a book report. It was you sort of sharing your internal debate about the subject matter as you kind of wrestled with the content and tried to draw conclusions from it. I also thought you did a great job of translating what can be very complex theories from the book into very specific experiences, as well as questions that you've wrestled with in your own life. I thought you brought humor in when you had the Sean Connery joke, which was fantastic. It helps liven up the mood. That was actually one of the things I really liked about your table topics a couple weeks ago. That was a very humorous story. I would absolutely encourage you to continue to bring humor into your speeches as much as you can and as appropriate for the content. In terms of an opportunity here, you made one comment that I think we all struggle with and are guilty of sometimes when it's something important that we will say, but I'm not going to go through all of this because I don't want to bore you with the details. But this is like a really important topic for you. So you shouldn't diminish it by comments like that. You can say, I want to keep it succinct, or I want to focus on a few key points, but don't let that kind of doubt creep in, because that will resonate then with the audience. Well, if it's boring, then why should I be paying attention? All right, let's move on to structure. I loved how you launched into your speech with a story from an interaction that you had with this gentleman. Obviously, that was a great device to continue to bring into the speech throughout. You used it as a recall device to continue to bring people back to some of the key messages and themes. It was an interesting story, certainly brought home the point of someone who envisioned their life at the end and how they've accomplished that. But it also got you to kind of think, is it really so simplistic? So I like that interplay in terms of a very tangible example. Lastly, delivery, confident throughout, great hand gestures, good eye contact with the audience, good pace. I thought you did a good job of pausing well between key points throughout the story, or throughout the speech rather, to allow your points to resonate. Couple things here, voice inflection. So if you can moderate that a little bit more, or find moments to kind of amp up your energy. Again, maybe the speech didn't lend itself to that, but try to find ways to do that. Reference your notes less. You had good contact, but you were also looking at your notes a fair bit. Part of that probably was, the lack of the PowerPoint slides and maybe relying on the structure, but the structure actually was great because it allowed you to go off of the slides unscripted. And I thought you didn't really miss a beat there. And then lastly, just use the stage more if you can. But overall, fantastic speech, Stuart. Enjoyed, looking forward to the next one.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jamie. I would now like to call upon Toastmaster Sonia for a timers report for the evaluators.
Fantastic. For Alan, 3 minutes and 16 seconds, and for Jamie, 3 minutes and 17 seconds.
Thank you, Sonia. I will now spend a couple of minutes providing my overall evaluation for today's meeting. And then, Carla, are you signaling something?
Yeah, aren't the grammar, well, maybe you do it differently. We do the grammarian report before you evaluate? Or you would do it after, so I apologize.
I believe we do it afterwards, and I will confirm with our Toastmaster of the day, David Jones.
Yes, that is a preference if you want her to evaluate your speaking abilities, and then she can grab a few more so's and ums. So it's always up to the general evaluator. So you're good.
Yes, and Carla, I will try my best not to provide you with extra ammunition when you give your report. So I'll just take a few minutes and go through some individual comments about the meeting. First of all, as usual, kudos to our past president, Toastmaster David Jones. Number one, for stepping in when we needed a Toastmaster. And number two, for choosing a great theme and introducing a great concept to members of the group, which I think in and of itself will add tremendous value. I love how you're going to be bringing in guest speakers to offer us areas of expertise that they have. And I think that's going to be beneficial for everyone here. A personal suggestion would be somebody who has done a TED Talk. I'd love to hear from them how they got to be asked to give a TED Talk and how they put it together and how they felt it went. And that would be really valuable. Sonia, great job as our timer. And thank you for being very clear with the color coding when everyone was speaking. I would like to just comment, Carla, I thought your choice of word of the day was excellent, and I look forward to your report in a couple of minutes. Andrea, I love your table topics approach. I love the fact that you integrated questions with what we were already talking about in the meeting. I love how when you were up front, you seemed to ad lib. I felt like you were more playing the role of a talk show host and a facilitator. And you just did a little bit of a different approach. And I thought it added a really nice dynamic. I think I'm going to have to follow suit with that when I am Table Topics Master. A couple of things that I took note of that I thought were important things, and some of these were almost already mentioned by our evaluators. Stuart, I thought your comments were very impactful, especially asking us to imagine being at our own funeral. I thought that was quite interesting. Junior, I loved your comments that success starts with failure. And I think it was Latrice, who was our table topic speaker, who dovetailed on that concept and shared some very important tidbits with us. A few comments on our two evaluators. Both of you guys did an excellent job. And I'd like to point out, for those people who either have not done an evaluation yet or who are considering doing evaluations, these were both great models. Both of you presented strong points from each of our speakers, and you did so in a clearly organized way. And both of you also presented suggestions for each of our speakers. And when you did so respectfully and impactfully. And so kudos to both of you. I don't really have anything else to offer other than what you've already done or said. A couple of suggestions on ways we can improve the meeting. One is to our speakers. On the agenda, there is an area for you to fill out the title of your speech. and your pathways, and that's very helpful, especially for the Toastmaster of the day. So in future, please consider doing that. The second is I'd like to encourage members to add their photos so that when we see the agenda, we actually see everyone's beautiful, smiling, and intelligent faces. And one other thing that we neglected to do today, and that is that when an icebreaker is given, usually we're supposed to give the speaker a standing ovation after their speech. And so I would like to suggest that the group stand up, and I will do so because I'm on Zoom, and give Junior the respect that he was supposed to get from his speech today. Thank you. And with that, I will now ask our grammarian, Carla,
Bye,
to provide
Mamacita.
words of wisdom for us. Carla?
Thank you very much. My apologies for disrupting your thinking, because at that moment when I did, I knew it threw you off course, because the next thing you said is so and that's the only time you really did that. I accept full credit for that. And I did notice that you used the word launch. We had a lot of people using the word launch more than one time, some people. David, kudos to you. I think you used it the most. I heard it from a chocolate butterfly, Eric, Junior used it, Dwayne used it, and if anybody else used it, I apologize for not getting it. There were several people who used ums and ahs and so's more than usual, from what I've heard. And David, you had, when you were at the very beginning, you were doing a lot of those ahs, ahs, ahs. But you get, those are all deducted because you used the word of the day more than twice. Alan, you said one so, and Stuart, you had several ums and ohs and ahs. Let me just go see. Junior, not one at all. I agree with your evaluator. The person, I think it's Paula who got up and spoke about the book Alchemy. If it's you, great. If it's not, whoever spoke about the book Alchemy, you had a couple ahs, ums. Reggie, you had a few ums and a you know. Latrice, you had one that I caught and a you know. Jamie, you said, but this is like really important. That was a lot of filler words there. Dwayne, you said, man, am I, and you talked about, you used the word launch, if I didn't say that, I was talking about your law firm. And that's all the ums and ahs and ohs. As far as really interesting sayings, we had a lot of interesting sayings today. A lot from the Stephen Covey book, which I will not repeat, except for to begin with, end in mind. The comment saying horse with blinders on, you must, this is another people, I believe it's Junior, you must fail in order to succeed, do better, be better. And that was sort of followed by, who I'm getting credit to again, Paula, that said, the things we go through are not failures, they are steps to success. I thought that was a brilliant way to speak about that. And let's see, there were a few other things, but I will turn it back over to you, either Toastmaster or General Evaluator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toastmaster Carla. Excellent job. And that completes the evaluation portion of this evening's meeting. I would now like to turn control of the meeting back to our Toastmaster of the day, David.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Appreciate that. Now, one of the joys of joining Toastmasters is you get a ribbon, and I'd like to present it to our newest member, Matt. Matt, you want to come get your, it's worth the price of the club in of itself. So congrats for joining. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. He's excited. All right. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over. Oh, and just for our general evaluator, we actually have a member who is no longer a member, and he did a TEDx talk. So I'll reach out to him, Turker Akbay. He did a TEDx talk here in Charlotte. So we'll see if we can't get him to come and give a talk. And with that, I'll turn it back to our president, Vanessa.
Thank you, David, and thank you to everyone who filled in a role or gave us a wonderful speech and made this evening really interesting as always. And I'd like to close out the meeting by circling back to our guests and getting your feedback. I know we have several guests in person joining us, but we would love to hear from you as far as any ideas you took away from the meeting, any thoughts about Toastmasters, any questions, and whoever would like to go first, we can pass the mic around and we'd love to hear from you.
Great. We'll start with Taiki.
Hi, my name is Taiki. It was a great meeting, great speeches, and yeah, I learned a lot. Failure is like, yeah, just failure. We need to success. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And we've got Paula.
I agree.
Hi, Paula. I really think I was just a little intimidated. I think that some of the people that are supposedly new here, like Junior, did such a great job that I'm just not sure that I can, to compete.
Don't worry, Paula. I promise you that you do not need any experience at all. So many people come here for the first time and are very new to public speaking and maybe don't feel confident. I was definitely one of those people, but you do make progress and learn as you go. And it's such a great group to support you. So don't feel bad if you don't have any experience. No worries.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that with, I think, Alan, your comment. It's about speaking from the heart the first time, and that helps, I think, relieve a lot of the pressure and the stress of that very first speech. It's just getting up there and sharing a little bit of a story about yourself. So, and that's one of the great things about it. We have such a great, diverse representation of backgrounds and experiences that's one of the things I love coming to Toastmasters and hearing some of those stories and getting to know people a little bit better. All right, we've got Reggie up next.
Thank you. Reggie Harris here. I think being in person for the very first time, I got a better understanding of the structure and the way things flow. And, I just try to take everything in, and I'm excited about the future of me participating. I like how everybody pretty much has an opportunity to be included, and it's a lot of encouragement that I see displayed to everyone that is participating. So I really like that, and it gives me the confidence to, be my best self and try to get better as a speaker.
Great comments. Thank you. All right, and then Latrice.
I actually enjoyed myself. The thing that I enjoyed most is listening to how many ums we say. I have been trying my best to pay attention to that, and it's really about slowing down. And so I like that part because that's going to keep me accountable. So thank you.
I agree with you there.
All right, and then lastly, Dwayne.
I'm not a guest, but I always enjoy coming here. So thank you.
All right, Vanessa, that's all we have here in person.
All right. Well, thanks again, Jamie, for passing the mic around. So I believe we don't have any major announcements for next week, given that we have our officers elected, which is super exciting. So starting in July, we will have new officers taking on club leadership. I will remain as immediate past president. As you heard, David Jones will be transitioning from immediate past president to sergeant at arms. So we'll have at some point a ceremony to welcome in our new officers. Elvis will be our incoming president. He's on Zoom. Eric Laxer will be our incoming VP of Education. I'm sure there are some others in person that I'm having trouble seeing, but we're so excited to have these new officers joining us and leading the club forward. So be sure to come out to our meetings over the summer and support our new officers. Do we have any officer announcements before we wrap things up?
Not from our side, no.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much again, everyone, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Have a great evening.
Good night.
Great meeting. Thank you, everybody. Great meeting, really.
Thanks, Carla.
I was
Thank you,
inspired.
everyone. See you next week.
Liked your table topics. That was It's really solid.
See you, everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a good evening.